Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time you're up watching this video. I am Christopher, and I will be showing you this deck tech video. Right now we're looking at mono blue Pauper. We've got some islands here, 16 of them. And believe it or not, that's plenty for what this deck does, and I'm going to show you how. The first card we're looking at is Brainstorm. A lot of people run Preordain, they swear by it. I swear by Brainstorm. Not only is it an instant, but it's just pretty amazing, and Ponder kind of evens it out. You get to reshuffle if you don't get what you need, so that's why I run those two. And then of course Delver of Secrets, the flagship card of the deck, which flips into I just took one out of my deck. Weird how that happens when you double click on stuff. Okay, so Delver of Secrets, which flips into a 3/2 flyer, as everybody knows. Bone Splitter, two of these. These are amazing. These help you get there when you've got a small threat on the board and you just need to, you know, make it happen for yourself. Cloud of Fairies. This card is my favorite card in Magic, to be honest. It's a 2-drop. When it enters the battlefield, you untap. And it cycles, so late in the game when it's not what you need, you can cycle it. Early in the game it's a threat, as well as complementing the Spell Stutter Sprite, which we'll talk about next. Spell Stutter Sprite counters spells with X or less, where X is the number of fairies you control, and so it counters a 1-drop at minimum and a 2-drop if you have a Cloud of Fairies or another Spell Stutter Sprite out, and sometimes even a 3-drop, which in Pauper 1, 2, and 3 drops are, you know, 80–90% of spells, so it's really amazing. Next card we're going to look at is Snap. This card returns target creature to its owner's hands, and it untaps the 2 lands. Obviously the Cloud of Fairies and the Snap are really important to keeping mana open for counterspell, which we'll go into in a minute. But I want to show you the one of, which is Echoing Truth. It's a bounce spell, but it returns a non-land permanent, so not just a creature, but any kind of threat that's getting in the way of doing what you want to do. It's kind of a clutch card. It's also really good against tokens and any token creating decks, as well as all the other bounce in the deck. As you'll see, there's an additional one in the sideboard for those matchups. Counterspell is just another flagship card in this this deck. 4 strong and the 3 deprive because it's the next best thing. Those are the hard counters, and then the Spell Stutter's a little softer of a counter and whatnot. But that is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 counter spells and 7 cantrips, and so 21 spells, so every 3rd turn your Delver will flip, so it's a really good ratio. Stormbound Geist is my own personal tech. I run 3 main board because a tough matchup is mono black, and this card wrecks mono black, so I run it because in the current meta mono black is the 2nd biggest threat, and so I run a main board. I sideboarded them in so often for so long that they just ended up going in the main. Ninja the Deep Hours, it ninjutsus for 2, and when it deals combat damage to a player you can draw a card, which is just outstanding. It allows you to, you know, bring it in place of a Spell Stutter Sprite, for example, get your additional counter spell back and deal 2 damage and draw an additional card, so tons of value in this. And you usually ninjutsu it, you usually don't have to hard cast it. And Spire Golem, which is sort of the late game threat, which late in the game can cost 1, 2, maybe 3 to play because it has affinity for islands, but it's just a beefy flyer and it's really great. Now we're going to look at the sideboard. So a null for the, aura decks, Bogles, stuff like that, and obviously Tron, anything that's running really powerful artifacts. This allows you to counter that one important spell that they play. This spell works against a number of different decks in the format, but it helps in the mirror match as well as against mono red, which, as you'll see. Hydroblast is sort of the flagship sideboard card. It is just unbelievable. It counters a spell if it's red, or destroys a permanent if it's red. These things are a pretty penny, but they're worth every single cent. Relic of Progenitus is good for graveyard extortion type decks and anything that uses graveyard to benefit from, like Mystical Teachings and some other decks in the format. And then we have an additional Echoing Truth, as I said before, which I bring in against tokens, as well as anything that needs, if I need more bounce, basically, I bring that in. Mana Leak is good against a lot of different decks, and it's a nice one of. And then we have Frostborn Weird, which is my own personal tech as well. Some people were playing it for a while, they've stopped playing it recently, but I found it's still really relevant because against elves or goblins in particular, this card gives you something to block with on the ground while you're coming in with your aerial threats, and it can also be a threat itself as it pumps, so it's a really great 2-drop. It's sort of a weird card because there's a little bit of red in it and it's a mono blue deck, but you can do all of it with blue as well. It doesn't have to be red, it's red or blue, so it's a great addition. And we'll finish there. That's my deck tech video for mono blue Pauper. Thank you for joining me. I'm Christopher, and please follow Maximus Games at Maximus Games on Twitter, and Abstract Right on Twitter as well. And look at Maximus Games on YouTube as often as possible, and please click that subscribe button. Thank you very much for joining me today.